You're watching the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14.
Right now at 7, when it rains, it pours. One small town in Kansas has suffered through a series of water-related issues. We'll tell you all about it with the latest.
And the Boys and Girls Club of Joplin kicks off the new year in style with a party for the entire community.
All right, we're going to be looking at storms developing later on today with temperatures rising close to 70 degrees. And that's going to help those thunderstorms become severe later on today. We'll have more details on that coming up in just a little bit.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Thanks for joining us for the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. I'm Tanya Bach. A fatal crash takes the life of a Miami, Oklahoma man. Multiple area agencies from Missouri, Oklahoma, and Kansas received reports of a motor vehicle crash. This happened late Thursday night. Authorities reported a silver HHR went off the road to the right, overturned, and struck a tree. The crash took the life of the driver, 21-year-old Assi Zaret from Miami. The passenger, Benister Seen, also of Miami, was not injured. Authorities have notified next of kin. An Aurora, Missouri man survives a New Year's Day crash with serious injuries. Troopers report a 2003 Ford F-350 traveled off the left side of the road, struck a tree, and overturned. This happened 1/2 mile east of Monette on Business Highway 60. The driver of the vehicle, Clayton Orr of Aurora, was taken to Cox South Hospital in Springfield with serious injuries. Also on New Year's Day, a Stockton, Missouri woman survived a crash with serious injuries at approximately 1:10 p.m. 2007 Ford Fusion driven by Tanya Wade of Stockton traveled off the left side of the road, struck a driveway, and overturned 4 miles north of Lockwood on Highway 97. She was also taken to Cox South Hospital in Springfield, Missouri with serious injuries. One small Montgomery County, Kansas town is dealing with the latest in a sequence of water issues. The latest problem started on Christmas Day for Caney's 1,700 residents. KOAM's Yana Dula looks at what the city is doing to fix the problem.
After a long summer and fall dealing with drought and logjams, the city of Caney is facing another water issue. This time, it's because of the cold weather.
The river had turned over and was so concentrated with silt and soot. I went out to the plant and worked with our operator, and we were having trouble getting water to filter through the filtering process of the plant.
The city workers are doing their best to take care of the situation.
We've been running since last Thursday, 24 hours a day, up at the plant trying to keep it clean to get water back to town.
Cold weather not only brought problems with the water plant, but it also froze pipes. Zellner says the city is working with residents to lower the water usage. The city is grateful for the help they have gotten during the hard times.
We've been distributing bottled water to people. We started that Monday morning, and up to right now we've distributed over 20 pallets of bottled water.
The city crew has now increased the pressure of the filters.
Pressure's good. We just have to get tests sent off to the labs for the state for them to approve us to go off the boil order.
The next step is sending water samples to lab on Tuesday.
Of course, Monday's a holiday, so as soon as we can get them to them Tuesday, it's 24 hours before we'll know, and hopefully by the following day on Wednesday, if everything goes well, we'll be off that boil order.
In Caney, Janna Haudala, KOAM News.
Zellner says now that they understand the deeper protocol of cleaning, they can keep their filters up to a greater efficiency level in the future. Well, on Friday, the Boys and Girls Club of Joplin got ready to kick off the new year with a party. The event included a raffle drawing, bouncy house, and music with a DJ.
The holidays are really hard for a lot of people, especially our marginalized community, and that's what our group helps support is marginalized youth and families. So we try to provide free or cheap inclusive events, and this one's free.
Boys and Girls Club is located at 317 Camingo Avenue in Joplin. Pittsburgh YMCA starts its Destination Swim Challenge. The challenge consisted of swimming 435 miles to Memphis, Tennessee. Now, every mile swam is equivalent to 10 miles towards your destination. Of course, you don't have to go all the way to Tennessee. You can stay in Pittsburgh. The challenge is for swimmers and non-swimmers, as it's another way to keep your body healthy.
So I think the main goal for this promotion is kind of to get more people involved with the Y and more involved with swimming, especially because that's one of our areas that sometimes can get neglected more because the fact you think, like I said, you think of gyms as fitness facilities, basketball courts, racquetballs. You don't think of necessarily as the pool all the time, which we have our indoor pool is open, and every day that we're open, it will be open unless told otherwise.
Well, the event began on Sunday at 12 p.m. to kick off a healthy new year. Well, state parks across Missouri hosted first day hikes on Sunday, and this is video from the hike at Big Sugar Creek State Park. That's down in McDonald County. Roughly a dozen people learned about the wide variety of animals and plant species in the park. Roaring River State Park in Cassville and Prairie State Park in Minden Mines also hosted first day hikes.
And McDonald County might have some severe weather later on this afternoon in our region. Temperatures this afternoon around lunchtime are going to be in the mid to upper 60s ahead of the storms as they develop out towards the west. As we move towards rush hour, we're going to be looking at showers and thunderstorms, a pretty good bet across the area, likely severe, especially the further south you go where the instability is greater. That's where the risk of tornadoes is a little bit higher too. But we're going to have to watch all of these storms as they develop and grow across our area this afternoon and evening. Then by 10 o'clock, this all kind of moves off towards the east. Temperatures will still remain mild until the cold front starts to move in on Tuesday. And you can see that on Tuesday morning, we'll start to see the winds turning around to more westerly with lows generally in the upper 40s to around 50 degrees. And as we head through Tuesday afternoon, we're going to see readings in the 50s, but notice off towards the northwest, dropping into the 40s. And then as we go into Wednesday morning, we're going to see temperatures dropping right down close to freezing once again, a little bit more closer to normal because it is January after all, with temperatures in the 20s up to the north and west, 30s elsewhere. Then Wednesday afternoon, one of the coolest days of the week with highs generally in the upper 30s to around 40 degrees with northwesterly winds. And then as we go into Thursday morning, we're going to see readings in the 20s across our area with westerly winds. So if you're planning your day, around 70 degrees this afternoon with temperatures in the 60s around lunchtime, 69 at 5 with those scattered storms, with some of those being severe. That continues into 8 o'clock. And then over the next 7 days, we're going to be looking at temperatures getting back to more seasonal temperatures as we head towards next weekend. Tanya?
Next, if you think allergies are just for spring, summer, or fall, you might want to think again. We've got some tips on how to cope with allergies during the coldest months of the year.
And you're looking at the sunrise this morning. You're watching the KOAM Morning News right here on Fox 14.
In Health Watch this morning, if you are allergic to pollen, you may be getting a break from the sniffles and sneezes, but when the temperature dips, many face another foe. Mandy Gaither has more on how to cope with winter allergies.
If you think allergies only strike in the spring, summer, and fall, think again. Winter is a prime time for perennial allergens.
So those are the ones from our furried fat pets. They're from mold and dust mites typically.
If you have a runny nose, are sneezing, have watery, itchy eyes or nose, are coughing, and these symptoms linger for weeks, you may be suffering from indoor allergies. Let's start with pet dander. They're cute and cuddly, but if you're feeling sneezy after being around a cat or dog, keep them off furniture, especially your bed. Cleveland Clinic allergist Dr. Sandra Hong says antihistamines can help.
If you leave someone's home with a cat and you're allergic to them and you go home and you sit on your favorite couch that's upholstered and you just hang out there and you lay down, that cat protein will linger there for 4 months.
That's why Hong says showering and changing clothes after being around someone else's pet is a good idea. If you're allergic to dust mites, you may wake up stuffy. Hong says adding an air purifier in the bedroom may help and says to use high-efficiency air filters to clean dust from the air and replace them frequently. Vacuum carpets or wet mop hard floors often, and put covers that help keep allergens from collecting on mattresses, pillows, and comforters. If symptoms don't improve or you have trouble breathing, see a doctor.
There are so many different things that can be used to treat your allergies and make you feel a whole lot better.
Dr. Hong says to wash your bed linens in hot water each week and dry them in hot heat. That can also help get rid of those dust mites that may be bothering you.
And let's take a look outside right now on our range line cam. You can see some cloudy skies, also a little bit of fog out there, also wet ground, not from any precipitation, but from the fog and the moisture that's in the air. It feels more like spring instead of the second day of January across our area. And we're going to really see that later today with the severe weather threat. So as a result, we're under an alert day with severe storms possible, even the possibility of tornadoes, large hail, and high winds. But thank goodness the tornado threat is low for the most part. The highest risk of the tornado threat is going to be from basically Joplin to the south, and then the hail threat is going to extend further to the north from basically from Chanute and Yates Center southward across our area, and that goes the same for the high winds. A medium risk exists for that as well. But the big threat of severe weather is likely going to be down in Arkansas with long track tornadoes there. Radar is clear right now, but we're watching out towards the west as the storm system starts to make its way into the plains, and we're going to see these thunderstorms develop and grow as we go through the morning and early afternoon hours, and then racing across our region later on tonight. Right now we're sitting at 59 degrees, and it feels like 59. The dew point's 55. The wind is out of the south-southeast at 8. And of course, I'll be back in a few minutes to tell you all about the forecast when we return right after this. Some Joplin residents got to start off the new year with a nature walk at Wildcat Glades Park. KOAM's Yana Hatala has more on the event with words from participants and the naturalists involved.
I get really distracted by birds.
Some Joplin residents started the new year walking on trails at Wildcat Glades Park.
Nature is good for you anyway, so starting the year off by coming out, whether it's cold, obviously today is a little bit warmer, so that's nice, but puts you in the right state of mind to start off the year on a good note.
Hikers got to enjoy great weather on this year's annual hike.
Mostly we're going to be looking for and listening for birds, and honestly just enjoying the walk. It's not going to be super structured. We're not going to be specifically looking for anything, just enjoying nature. I think that's important as much as it is to identify things that are out.
Naturalists with Wildcat Glades traverse the paths while collecting trash and talking about the local ecosystem. Jackson says it's important to realize how much trash ends up in the nature, regardless how much they clean up.
Wildcat Glades removed, I think, 3.5 tons of trash from this area out here. So I think understanding that we work really hard to keep these natural areas clean is something I definitely want people to take away, and also to realize that just because it's winter, that doesn't mean that nothing is active and out.
Resident Kathy Stwally says she is used to collecting trash on her walks at home.
You open your car door and there goes your empty water bottle. So you have to be pretty, careful about your refuse. When you're rafting, you have a candy bar and you try to stuff it in your pocket, and so I think a lot of it's just by accident, but then some people just don't care. They just miss the trash can. And
Stwally joined the walk with her husband.
Well, I learned something today, that you do not collect feathers. I didn't know that. I thought it was for certain birds, but it's for all birds.
We have this really special area out here, so I think if people can come out and realize how special it is, and just enjoy the trails that we have.
In Joplin, Yana Hautala, KOAM News.
And the hike gathered about 10 participants. And later today, if you're going to be going out hiking, you're going to need to take along your umbrella and a rain jacket as storms are going to be developing across the area. Temperatures right now are pretty warm for this time of year and also for this time of morning. We're sitting at 60 degrees in Miami, 59 in Joplin, a little bit cooler up to the north in Fort Scott with 44, same thing over in Iola. That's because the warm front is advancing up towards the north, and eventually they will start to be south of the boundary. Dew points are also increasing, and that's going to help fuel those storms later on today. We're looking at dew points in the upper 50s from basically I-44 southward, a little bit drier up towards the north with a dew point of 44 in Fort Scott. Here's the severe weather risk that we're looking at for today. A pretty good chance of severe weather across Arkansas, southeast Oklahoma, northeast Texas, the Arklatex area. This is the main target zone for the tornado threat, but even the threat extends up into our region as well. So we're going to have to keep a very close eye on it. The tornado threat is low, but we do expect moderate risk of large hail, high winds, and heavy rain across our area. Then as we take a look at the rain chances, they're going to be increasing as we go through the day, but especially around the rush hour and then just a little bit after that, and then start to decrease once we go into the overnight hours. Here's the rain forecast across the area. It's going to be varied. Some places will get quite a bit with several inches, other places not so much. If you get underneath one of those thunderstorms, you could get quite a bit of rain in a short period of time, so be careful with the flash flooding risk as well. Temperatures this afternoon around lunchtime are going to be in the mid to upper 60s, and then as we go through the day, here's the showers and thunderstorms spreading across our area. Again, some of these are likely going to be severe, with the highest threat of severe weather down to the south. Then that will start to move away as we go through the evening hours, temperatures dropping into the 50s and 60s. And then as we go into Tuesday morning, we'll see lows in the upper 40s to around 50 degrees. And then as we go into Tuesday afternoon, we're going to be seeing temperatures in the mid 50s. And as we go through the next 7 days, it's going to be dry with temperatures more seasonable across our area. We'll be back right after this.
We take this time to honor today's four-state hero, Tech Sergeant Merle Rouse. The liberal Missouri native served from 1944 to 1946 as part of the 36th Armored Division Infantry Regiment of Patton's 3rd Army. This highly decorated veteran earned a number of awards, including the Purple Heart, the Bronze Star, and the Victory Medal. To Tech Sergeant Merle Rouse, we thank you, today's four-state hero. Well, a runaway dog is home safe after having quite an adventure.
That's right. He owes a lot to the community that helped alert his owner after the pooch fell through ice on a frozen creek.
Brad Bell has his story.
Moose, moose, moose. The adventures you've had, the story you could tell of your time on the run, your brush with mortality, your people can only imagine.
You think about what he's been through for 6 days out in that cold.
We know the beginning of the story and the happy ending. What happened in between remains locked in Moose the Aussie Doodle's memory. It all started last week when his owners, Kelly and Louie Nicolau, dropped Moose off at dog sitter Nicolina Converso's house in Edgewater as they headed off to California. At first, everything was fine.
Moose seemed pretty comfortable in my house.
Until the morning of the 23rd.
I opened the door to pick up a tree on my patio, and he just went on out, and we couldn't catch him. We just couldn't.
Moose was on the loose as the record cold snap arrived. Nicolina texted Louie in California with the news.
My heart just dropped. It was a complete moment of, oh my gosh.
In a full panic, Nicolina turned to the local Facebook group. It quickly became a community effort, Moose getting his own Facebook group called Operation Fur Fugitive, the Moose sightings pouring in.
I was getting phone calls and text messages and emails and Facebook messages. Like, it was just nonstop.
And then yesterday morning, finally, the big break. A woman reports a dog wandering out onto a frozen creek. She hears him whining and crying. Moose's people race to the scene. This is what they see. The dog is in big trouble.
And I can't express to you the joy and then the immediate fear that took over. It's like, oh my God, what am I going to do?
Well, what we haven't told you yet, and certainly Moose doesn't know, is that Louie Nicolau is the U.S. Naval Academy's water polo coach. He's a powerful swimmer, just back from the West Coast. He jumps in, crashes through the ice, and swims his dog to safety, sharing post-rescue pictures on that Facebook page. Today, everyone is back home in Annapolis, telling the story of Operation Fur Fugitive.
I went from this point of just complete despair to here, I got a chance to save his life. And it was overwhelming. It was awesome. And to all the people, the community, again, we teach this all the time in sports and the academy. It's community over individual. It's team over individual. And everybody came together for this one little dog. And I'll be forever grateful.
That's a great story.
Well, hopefully Moose doesn't go on the loose again in the near future.
No more Moose the fugitive. That's right.
That was great. I'm glad it had a happy ending.
Yeah, me too.
Really nice. All right. We'll be right back.
The four states' most watched news starts now.
Welcome back to the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. It's currently 7:28. The Joplin business community joins together to prepare a memorial for two law officers who lost their lives in the line of duty last March. Foundation is laid now for a memorial bench in honor of the late Corporal Ben Cooper and Officer Jake Reed. Now, last March, the two Joplin officers died after an exchange of gunfire with a suspect in the parking lot in front of the Buckle at the North Park Crossing Shopping Center. The bench has already been made by Quality Memorials with the help of some other area businesses, and it will be placed on the pedestal during a ceremony near the anniversary. One of Joplin's oldest downtown businesses will close next month. Pearl Brothers Hardware Store opened in 1905 and it'll officially close on January 28th. The current owner is retiring and says at the age of 67 he just can't keep up with the demanding work of a hardware store.
Thank our customers for the patronage, thank them for coming in. They've been coming in now, quite regularly and buying stuff and, appreciating the opportunity to be here.
Blue Haven Investments and Homes in Joplin has a contract to buy the building and the Pearl Brothers name. Officials say they plan to renovate the building. Well, the Pittsburgh YMCA starts its Destination Swim Challenge. The challenge consists of swimming 435 miles. That'd be the length it'd take to get to Memphis, Tennessee. Every mile swam is equivalent to 10 miles toward your destination. This challenge is for swimmers and non-swimmers, as it is another way to keep your body healthy.
So I think the main goal for this promotion is kind of to get more people involved with the Y and more involved with swimming, especially because that's one of our areas that sometimes can get neglected more because the fact you think of gyms as fitness facilities, basketball courts, racquetballs. You don't think of necessarily as the pool all the time, which we have our indoor pool is open, and every day that we're open, it will be open unless told otherwise.
The event began on Sunday at 12 p.m. to kick off a healthy new year. Well, on Friday, the Boys and Girls Club of Joplin got ready to kick off the new year with a party. The event included a raffle drawing, a bouncy house, and music from a DJ.
The holidays are really hard for a lot of people, especially our marginalized community, and that's what our group helps support is marginalized youth and families. So we try to provide free or cheap inclusive events, and this one's free.
The Boys and Girls Club is located at 317 Camingo Avenue in Joplin. Well, some Joplin residents were able to tour two historic homes built by German immigrants in the 1890s. KOAM's Yana Abdullah visited the homes and spoke with a community historian.
Edward and Margaret Selikin and Charles and Wilhelmina Schifferdecker homes were built by German immigrants from across the sea.
In 1890, they purchased the property, and in the early 1890s, they started building these two houses, and today we are touring some of these historic structures.
Community historian Brad Bilk says the Germans arrived to the United States with a little money in their pockets. The families built the two houses after 20 years.
And what they were connected to was the tri-state mining district. At then it was just two states of Kansas and Missouri, but they bought a lot of lead and zinc mining land, and with that they leased the land and got royalties from that. So they were land barons first, and then they got involved in banks and city parks and you name it.
Belk says the houses are grand for the era they were built. They've had 6 or 7 owners with unique stories.
Craftsmanship is quite significant. The materials that they're using separates it from a lot of wooden frame because these are brick and masonry constructed.
Visitors enjoyed the tour.
I'm glad to see they've been able to preserve most of the wood and that they've been able to even the glass is original in some of the areas here.
Joplin resident Agus says he has history with the Edward Selikin house.
I actually knew some of the people that owned it back in 25 years ago or a little longer.
Belk says it's essential to get young people interested in the past. It's easier to learn by experience by walking through the house.
It's a journey, it's a long journey, but in the end it's for the community and it's for for people to understand about the 1890s. Whether they're local or not.
In Joplin, Yana Abdullah, KOAM News.
Bilk says the two homes will be completely renovated in the near future, and they'll open the area up as historic house site museum with tour guides. Well, this morning we're discussing taking the plunge into the new year.
That's right. New Year's Day's traditions come in all shapes and sizes and, of course, degrees of normal. One such tradition takes place in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, along the River Wharf, where hundreds of people turn out to take the plunge into 38-degree water.
They're lucky it's that warm. Now, if you're not feeling as adventurous or thick-skinned, there are plenty of other ways to ring in the new year, like toast or kisses at midnight, singing Auld Lang Syne, or just a few.
Yep. And black-eyed peas.
Oh, yes.
Yep, I like black-eyed peas. Which brings us to our question of the day. How did you ring in the new year? Did you party? Did you sleep through it? Midnight Kiss, all of the other options out there. We want to hear from you at koamnewsnow.com/vote. KOAM, of course, that's on our app, Facebook page, or QR code.
Yep, and it seems like the consistency throughout the morning, the majority of our morning show viewers anyway have been sleeping through the new year. Well, it's time to wake up and go back to work this week.
That's right.
I guess today's a holiday for a lot of people.
A little bit of a holiday, yep. Yeah, I know our station, we consider it a holiday here, so.
Banks are closed today.
That's right.
It is a federal holiday considered today.
That's right. So it's going to be a pretty busy day weather-wise. It's going to feel more like spring out there. And instead of January 2nd or wintertime, right now at 7th and Rangeline, you can see mostly fair skies as you're heading out and about. We had some fog earlier this morning, but that is now starting to lift a little bit. We have an alert data because of the severe weather threat today. That means severe thunderstorms with the possibility of tornadoes, large hail, and high winds. And I'm looking at some later data coming in just now, and the threat of tornadoes seems to be increasing a little bit for our area, so that's not good. Hopefully it will stay low, but we're going to watch it very closely. You can see on the tornado risk, earlier it looked like it was mainly going to be down in Delaware, Benton, McDonald, and Berry counties, but now it's been inching northward because the warm front's advancing a little bit further to the north, and so now it looks like it includes Joplin as well, points southward. The hail risk is primarily going to be medium, and it stretches from basically Yates Center southward across our area, and then the wind risk is about the same region as far as the wind goes. All right, let's take a look at the radar right now. It's all clear. Nothing really going on right now, but that will change as we go through the afternoon hours. So it's very important for you to stay aware of the weather situation and tune in to KOAM and Doug Heddy later on this afternoon for the latest information. You can see some rain is starting to develop in central and western Kansas. This is the beginnings of the storm system as it rolls our way later on tonight and this afternoon. Temperature right now is 59 degrees, and it feels like 59. Wind is out of the south-southeast at 8, and the visibility's come up a little bit to about 7 miles. Now stay tuned, because when we come back, we're going to take a look at the severe weather threat as well as your 7-day forecast, so you want to stay tuned for that. The Emancipation Proclamation Parade and ceremony took place in downtown Charleston today for the 157th year in a row, making it the oldest such celebration in America. Emily Johnson has all the details.
Held as slaves within these designated states and parts of states are and henceforward shall be free.
When I think about the word emancipation, I think of it as a verb. It is not a moment. It is not a simple declaration. It is not a single choice on a single day. It is a process.
The event celebrated the signing of the Emancipation Proclamation by President Abraham Lincoln and its announcement on January 1st, 1863, as the United States approached its third year of the Civil War. Members of the community gathered on streets throughout downtown Charleston to watch the parade and to celebrate the important day.
Because we all need to come together as one and be one and learn from one another's cultures and stuff. And it was great to see a lot of other cultures out here.
The International African American Museum president says that Charleston is a city of tradition, and we should not take traditions for granted.
That the things that we don't repeat, the things that we don't pass down, are the things that we forget. And these are the kinds of memories and stories and histories that we should be passing down to our children, to our neighbors.
After the parade, the community gathered in Gatzenboro Park to hear from Charleston Mayor John Tecklenburg, members of the International African American Museum, and other local leaders in the community.
Us as our ancestors were slavery, and we like to celebrate them and them being free and having a good feeling about themselves.
Looks like it was a pretty nice day there in Charleston for that parade. We're going to have some severe weather in our forecast, and of course I'll have all the details on that when we return, so stay with us. And welcome back. We are seeing some warm temperatures out there this morning. How warm? Well, generally in the upper 50s to around 60 degrees. We do have a warm front in the area, and you can see that pretty clearly. It's 45 in Fort Scott, but it's 15 degrees warmer just across that boundary in Miami, where it's currently 60 degrees. And that's going to be the case through this morning hours, but that warm front's going to move to the north. Dew points are very juicy behind the warm front. 60 in Grove, 58 in Jay, 49 in Pittsburgh, and that moist air is moving towards the north, and that's increasing our risk of severe weather later on today, and also our rainfall amounts as well. Here's the severe storm risk for today. The biggest risk of big tornadoes is primarily going to be in the Arklatex area and in Arkansas, but we can't rule out a possible tornado or two in our area as well, especially our southern areas. You can see the severe risk extends up into our region. A little bit closer in view shows that extending all the way up towards about Yates Center. Again, the highest risk of really nasty stuff is going to be down to the south, but again, we have to watch it very, very closely. The risk of tornadoes is low, but we do expect large hail, strong winds, and very heavy rainfall with those thunderstorms this afternoon. Rain chances are going to be increasing as we go through the afternoon, maxing out at around the commuter time, around rush hour, and then starts to drop off as we head towards the overnight hours. Rainfall amounts in some isolated areas could be several inches, depending upon where you're located. Other areas are not going to get as much. So it's going to be varied across the area as far as rainfall amounts. Here's the forecast, breaking it down for you. This afternoon around lunchtime, we're going to be seeing temperatures in the mid to upper 60s with south winds. But then watch as we go through the afternoon, big storms develop out towards the west, roll our direction, and by around 6 to 7 o'clock p.m., we're going to be seeing these severe thunderstorms across the area. And you can see the individual cells here. The more that these cells are individual and the warmer it gets today, the more likely the tornado risk is going to be. So it's extremely important to keep tuned to the weather this afternoon and evening as we watch that system come across. Then as we go through the evening hours, it'll rapidly pull off towards the east. We'll see temperatures dropping down into the upper 50s to around 60 degrees by 10 o'clock. Then by tomorrow morning, we'll see temperatures dropping into the 40s to around 50 degrees here in the metro, with winds starting to veer around to the west-northwest. And by Tuesday afternoon, we'll see highs in the mid-50s, a little bit cooler up to the north and west. Then on Wednesday morning, we're going to see readings again in the 20s and 30s across our area, getting back to more normal conditions. And then Wednesday afternoon, highs in the upper 30s to lower 40s. And then Thursday morning, we'll see readings in the mid-20s across our area, so it'll definitely feel like winter has returned. So today, we're going to be seeing those storms this afternoon with a high of 70, and over the next 7 days, we're going to see drier conditions after today, and then it gets drier and cooler and back towards more normal conditions with a high of only 39 on Thursday. And then as we move towards next weekend, we're looking at 53 on Friday, 51 on Saturday, and 48 on Sunday. And if we extend it out even further, you can see readings are going to be generally in the upper 40s to right around 50 degrees with no real chances of precipitation in our forecast. But again, Tanya, it's extremely important for folks to be paying attention this afternoon and evening. Download the KOAM app on your phones, and of course, stay tuned to KOAM as well as Fox 14 for all the information on any severe weather that does develop this afternoon. Of course, we'll have a complete updated forecast for you at noon as well. Tanya?
All right, thanks, Sam. And Consumer Watch this morning, in an interview with the CBS News' Face the Nation, Bank of America's chief U.S. economist Michael Gapin warned the risk of recession this year is high, but he says it may not be a deep or prolonged one. His warning comes as there are signs the Federal Reserve's decision to raise interest rates 7 times in 2022 is having some effect on record inflation levels. Gapin added that it could take 2 or 3 years before prices get back down to pre-pandemic levels. We'll be right back with more after this.
Yeah.
Well, KOAM is always looking to hear from aspiring journalists, so we're continuing a program where we air stories that are shot, written, and edited by local students. Now, this next story comes from Joplin High School, and some people have dogs and cats as pets. Others have kangaroos. Joplin Eagles television student reporter Miles Griffith introduces us to a student with his own zoo at his house.
Gavin Hollingshead spends much of his time after school watering his emus. It's just one of his many pets at his house. He's a College Heights Cougar and a student in the Franklin Tech Jet HD program. He doesn't own cougars or eagles, but he could someday.
It's very weird. It's abnormal, even. You know, normally you go inside, you got a cat, maybe you got a dog running around outside. And then I go outside and I see this, and this is very abnormal and weird.
It is weird, but cool. But what is his favorite?
So my favorite animal out here is probably the male emu. The female emu, she's a little mean to him, but but I really like the male one because he just kind of chills. He's borderline a cat. He likes to be pet.
He also has kangaroos, camels, and miniature horses. So what does it take to take care of them each day?
We have to get food, and typically that food is in larger bags. You gotta break up fights between some of the animals, because some of them can get a little trying to assert their dominance, which is funny. You know, you really just got to make sure that they don't get themselves hurt.
Gavin's mom, Audra, says the family just loves exotic animals.
The biggest exotic animal auction is in Macon, Missouri. And we were walking around and a guy had a pouch, kept like looking in it, and I asked him what was in it, and he pulled out a baby kangaroo, and it was just so cute. And so and we had him for a couple of years, and he did well, so we got some females, and it's just kind of grown from there.
Gavin says his family is next looking to get a monkey to add to the farm.
That's wonderful. Again, thank you to Joplin High School student Miles Griffith for that report.
All right, if you're getting up and about this morning, we're looking at mostly fair skies. We had some fog earlier, but that is now starting to burn off. Now we have just a few clouds floating by, but it's also indicative of deeper moisture starting to move into our area, and that's increasing the threat of severe weather as we head through the afternoon hours. So as a result, we're under an alert day. It's a severe weather threat, and that means all types of severe weather, including a low risk of tornadoes, large hail, and damaging high winds, and of course heavy rainfall across areas. So we're going to break it down for each of the categories. The tornado risk is low, and that extends from basically Joplin points southward. And then for the hail risk, that extends a little bit further to the north from around Yates Center and points southward. And the same thing for the wind risk with those thunderstorms this afternoon and this evening. Radar is all clear right now, but that is not going to be the case as we go through the afternoon. As we look off towards the west, we're watching the next storm system. This is a big monster of a storm that's pulling out into the plains. So as a result, rain is now starting to break out across central and western Kansas, also northwestern Oklahoma, and a lot of that turns over into snow once you get into Colorado. So that cold air mass is going to be moving into our area, but it's not cold right now. It's 59, feels like 59, humidity is 87%, and the wind is out of south-southeast at 8 miles per hour. Temperatures are right now not too bad for January 2nd. 59 in Joplin, 60 in Miami, same thing over there in Grove, and the dew points are high as well, generally in the upper 50s and 40s up towards the north. Now you want to stay tuned because I'm going to be coming back and we're going to take a look at the 7-day forecast as well as breaking down the severe weather risk a little bit later on. Tanya?
Welcome back to the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. Here's what's happening today. A massive storm battered California over the holiday weekend, bringing heavy rain, snow, and high winds. Residents endured floods, mudslides, and power outages. A levee breach in Northern California prompted an evacuation warning, and rescue crews responded after several cars were submerged in floodwaters. In San Francisco, drivers were stranded on a major highway, the 101 in the Sierra Nevada. Up to 8 feet of snow blanketed towns and clogged roads. Pope Francis marked the new year presiding over Mass at St. Peter's Basilica. The Pope led prayers for his late predecessor, Benedict XVI. He died Saturday at the age of 95. Benedict resigned in 2013 because of poor health. His funeral is set for Thursday. The family of the suspect arrested in the brutal murders of 4 college students in Moscow, Idaho, is speaking out. In a statement, Brian Koberger's family says they are praying for the victims' families and that their family has fully cooperated with authorities. Koberger was arrested Friday at his family home in Pennsylvania. He's due in court tomorrow.
Well, today we're going to be looking at the threat of severe weather across the south central plains. The highest risk is going to be over primarily the state of Arkansas with some long track tornadoes possible, but we can't rule out the possibility of a few tornadoes in our area too, as the severe risk does extend up into our region. But the warmer it gets today, the worse the storms are going to be. So right now we're looking at a low tornado threat, large hail, high winds and heavy rains more likely across our area here in the yellow shaded region. But again, the further south you go, the bigger the threat of tornadoes is going to be. Rain chances this afternoon are going to be pretty high, especially around rush hour, and then extending on down into the evening hours. As we go into the overnight hours, chances are going to start decreasing. And let's take a look at the rainfall amounts. You can see that rainfall amounts are going to be varied across the area. Some places will get quite a bit, others not so much. So we'll have lots to talk about a little bit later on for the noon show. And Tanya, we're going to be watching the situation very, very closely. And of course, at noon, we'll have an update on that. And of course, Doug will be watching the situation this evening as well, along with the entire weather team.
Just to recap, when is the severe stuff supposed to move in?
You're probably looking at about 4 to 7 p.m. this afternoon and evening.
All right. So we'll have the calm before the storm then.
Yeah, we're in the calm right now, but it's going to be going downhill as we head through the afternoon, evening hours. And again, people will just need to pay attention to what's going on with the weather.
All right, well, that wraps up our show.
Thank you very much for letting us put the good in your morning, and we'll be back with more news and weather at noon.
Have a great morning and an even better day. Happy New Year.